Hey, what's up? Welcome to 10-4 Radio, the Yard Talk podcast. So listen, all right. So let's be honest for a second. We've all seen it, right? The driver's hopping out the cab in 0-degree weather wearing flip-flops and a stained white beater, or that driver that takes, 45 minutes to back into a spot that should only take 5. They holding up the whole damn fuel island or the docking station. And we keep asking, who taught them that? Who gave them a CDL? Yeah, that part. What he said. Now the question is it the schools that's running, what we call the puppy mills, or is it the trainers who's using the students for cheap labor? Or is it these steering wheel holders who think pre-trip is just merely kicking the tires and checking to see if my Bluetooth or my phone is connected to my speakers in my truck? Yeah, that's the question. So today we pointing fingers, and who's gonna help me do that? Yeah, I have the man who's been roasting the industry for years. CDL Shorty's in the building. So y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. Now listen, welcome back to 10-4 Radio. If you're new here, I am Mia, your host, or as some like to call me, your favorite trucking IT. I'm a 23-year transportation professional, a DOT safety and compliance coach, a CDL state examiner, and the founder of Gorgeous Truck Hers, of course. So look, I'm here to give it to you straight, no chaser, no sugarcoating. What we do is we mix professional with the personable, the safety with a little bit of sass, and the regulations with the realness. And of course, if you know me, you know I'm a crack a joke and laugh, because one thing I'm gonna do is lighten the mood a little bit. All right. So before we get started, I want to give a quick disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this episode are mine and my guests, and it does not reflect the official policy or position of any state agency or employer. I personally am speaking as an industry professional and a private citizen. So there you have it. All right. Now that we got that part out the way, before we fully get into it, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. As you can see down here, 10-4 Radio, the Yard Talk podcast. You can find us on Spotify, as well as YouTube, as well as Apple Podcasts. Also visit us at www.gorgeoustruckhers.com. If you just, you need to check out our mission, see what we're doing. Make sure you tap into us. All right. If y'all ready, let's get into it. Shorty, I hope you're ready. We're gonna bring him on here in a second. So just relax, calm down. All right, he's coming. All right, cue my music.
Push me, still on me.
You're listening to the 10-4 Radio with Mia. 23 years in the game, still shifting gears, still dropping gems, and still Gorgeous Truck Hers strong. Let's roll.
right, y'all. Now, hold up. If you've been on social media in the trucking world, then you know exactly who my guest is today. He's a content creator and an industry voice, and the man who's never afraid to tell a driver or the industry, like, what the fuck is you doing? Yeah, CDL Shorty. CDL Shorty, thank you so much for joining 10-4 Radio, the Yard Talk. I truly appreciate you taking some time out to come and join the yard. But let's make sure they know your resume before we get into the uncensored part. So first off, again, thank you, and then give the people a rundown of who you are, how long you've been behind the wheel, what kind of hauling you've done, and what made you finally pick up the camera and say, yeah, I've had enough. Let's talk to them.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you. Thank you for, just inviting me and just having me. I truly appreciate it. I thank you for your platform and for your voice as well and all you do within the trucking industry. So that's first and foremost. Number two, hello, my name is Avante Jackson, aka CDL Shorty. I've been in the trucking industry since 2015. My brother from another mother got me into it. And it's been amazing for me. It really has. It's been an amazing journey. It's definitely uplifted my life and taken my life to different levels that I probably would have never gotten to if I wasn't in the trucking industry. So I definitely owe the trucking industry my life. As far as my resume goes, I've done everything from dry van, flatbed, step deck, tanker, hazmat, and reefer as well. Haven't quite gotten into heavy haul or anything of that nature. That might be, in the future. I might do that. But and then in 2020, I had a heart attack. I was found pronounced dead in my truck, and another truck driver saved my life. And the EMTs, they did chest compressions and whatnot and brought me back to life. And then at that time is where I pivoted. And became a CDL instructor. And then that really caused me to pick up the camera and just, start teaching. I realized that was my passion, which I did not know it was. I was good at it. And at that time, I seen a lot of people on YouTube teaching, or not teaching, but creative content creators or whatnot in the trucking space. So I just picked up the camera and I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. And, here we are.
I know that's right. Wow. So you had a heart attack in your truck.
Yes.
My goodness. That's going to be another episode is, health. A lot of us, the drivers that's been out there, we don't eat the best and we don't really take the best care of ourselves a lot, because we just constantly grinding. And that's something that I don't think people really take as serious as they should. But thank God that you're still here. Thank God for that driver that found you and got you back here. So God is good for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I have an angel out there on the road. I know it was a guy because the EMTs told me, but they didn't tell me if this guy was black, white, purple, or blue. So I just know it's an angel out there that was looking out for me. But to go back to what you said right quick, you said we drivers don't take our health as serious. And, that's partially correct. But my little pushback on that would be, does the industry take drivers' health serious? Because they make us get these medical cards, these DOT cards, which is nothing but a money grab at the end of the day because they just check the bare minimum. But then you have to look at the food that are also available to us, Then you got to look at the prices of the fruit within the truck stops that's available to us. I know it's supply and demand or whatnot. I know it's fresh produce, versus old produce, but don't tell me that you guys care about me. You make me get these medical DOT cards, but then you got McDonald's, you got fried chicken, you got Taco Bell at these truck stops. That's not going to do nothing but raise my blood pressure anyways, or, sky higher than it once was when I got my physicals. So I think the overall industry, not just the driver, but the overall industry needs to do better and come out with a better health plan and health initiative to push for healthier and safer truckers on the road.
I definitely agree with that. I agree. Yeah, you go to these truck stops and you got Popeye, nothing healthy. Nothing is, if they
At
get
all.
nothing is ever healthy attached to it. Like, and that's just, yeah, that's a whole nother episode that we're gonna have to do. Yeah, that's interesting. That's a good one. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. So the question, of course, like we talked about, is who's selling new drivers, right? The industry or the trainers? What do you think has changed? Because you've been in the industry for 9 years. Is that what you
10,
said?
10,
10
10.
years. From the time you started, what do you see is the difference as far as the new drivers that's coming in? Or do you see any changes in that from when you first started versus now?
Well, from when I first started my 10-year tenure, I can definitely see a a change, and I can just speak from 2015 to now. I can't speak previously, but
Mhm.
I definitely see a change in the lack of professionalism and the lack of care. Which also brings a question to my mind is we have to talk about these automatic trucks. 2015 to 2016, that's when they was really introducing automatic trucks into the industry. I was lucky because I made it through that year to where I was able to drive a manual 10-speed transmission. I think that might have been the cutoff year, if I'm not mistaken. But you got to raise the question: has the automatic trucks, the release of the automatic trucks onto the scene, has it brought a lack of care and consideration into the industry? Number one. Then number two, you see the influx of new drivers that have come in, no matter whether they're foreign or whether they're American, domestic. You see the lack of care, consideration, the lack of passion, to where it does show up in the dress code. For instance, one of my friends, still to this day, I taught him about 3 years ago. I met him at the CDL school. He was one of my students, and day one showed up fresh. I'm talking about fresh to death, Balenciaga, everything. And he didn't understand that, you got on that yard and it's dusty, it's muddy, it's rocks. So we have an inside joke because him and his buddies was laughing at me because I had some busted, raggedy shoes on that day. And
Right.
I told him, I was like, hey, man, you got Balenciagas on? He was like, yeah. I was like, you might not want to wear those. And we started laughing. And then it rained that day on him. So he was standing over in the corner. Yeah. They was black with the white sole. And he was
Yeah.
standing over in the corner and trying not to get his little Balenciagas messed up. Oh, it was hilarious. But the next
Wow.
day, you better believe he had on some work boots and everything. So, I keep in touch with my students, and we laugh at that story from time to time. But, it's not just the foreigners that wear flip flops. I mean,
Yeah. Exactly.
African American, even Caucasians. They get to CDL school and it's a shell shock. They wear what they want, even though in the paper it'll say, "Hey, please dress proper attire." Some people still don't care. They still going to miss that and do what they want to do. And then they'll find out
Yeah.
that first day that it's not a game. So that's one thing I would say that I've seen change. And then definitely the care and consideration. You always hear stories about, back in the day, truckers would look out for each other. Well, I can't speak to back in the day, but I know when I first started out, I had some people out there that looked out for me. And nowadays you don't have that. You don't have that
Well,
at
you can
all.
say back in the day. I mean, you've been in it 10 years, so you can say back when I
I,
first started. You can throw that.
I could say that, but I don't want to seem disingenuous because, like you got 23 years. So, I can't come with my little 10 years and say, hey, back in the day, I don't roll like that. So, I like to, and that's another thing. I like to, definitely, because your tenure matters. And see, when you say stuff like back in the day, and I've only been in it 10 years, then the way that I think, I'm like, you're kind of messing up her tenure because, she got another 13 years on you. And I think within the industry, I think that that's another thing that that we really don't, take into consideration is our vets that are in this industry. You have rookies out here that think they know more than the vets. So, that's why I always give respect where respect is due.
Well, I appreciate that. But I'm going to piggyback off of that because as a vet, I think a lot of us veteran drivers, I'm not one of them, but I've seen it. We think we know everything. And honestly, I've learned quite a bit from newer drivers because stuff has changed, right? Like, I think once you get to a point where you feel like can't nobody tell you nothing, it's time for you to get out. Like,
correct.
The thing with transportation that I really love and what's kept me in it is it's forever evolving, it's forever changing. There's so much stuff to learn. You will never know everything.
Correct.
And that's one thing I love about it. And so even as a seasoned driver or a transportation professional, there's still more to learn.
Right.
And once you close your mind to look, like if you look, I don't ever look at anybody with less time in and say, they can't teach me nothing. That's not true. I'm always all ears. I'm like, now why do you feel that way? Like if you have a difference of opinion, I'm gonna ask you, why do you feel that way? Because the way you think about it may be different than how I think about it, but your logic may be better for the day that we're in. So I'm always ears. And so I think vets or seasoned drivers should get out of the mindset that nobody can teach them anything, especially a younger or a less seasoned driver, because I don't think that's the truth at all.
I like that
personally. So yeah. So your 10 years matters. Like, cause I be listening. So let me tell y'all, I've been following CDL Shorty for some time. And when I tell you he got no sugarcoat, y'all thought I was unfiltered. Shit. Go watch his stuff. At the end of this video, he's gonna make sure to share all of his socials so you guys can go find him. But he's definitely somebody you guys need to go check out. He has a lot of different perspectives and even things that I don't know about because I'm not out there actively like I used to be. So, and that's what I'm talking about with learning stuff. You talk a lot about the freight broker side. I don't know about that side. So when I find somebody that knows about that stuff, I'm like, yeah, teach me. Tell me, how does that work? So respect to you for sure. So
I appreciate that. Did you get a chance to watch any of the videos I sent you when I was having those discussions with those
I
freight
did.
brokers?
Well, I watched one. I didn't get a chance to dive into the other ones. And I want to talk about, I don't know if this will be the episode to talk about it, but I did. I'm gonna share that with y'all. Yeah, I did. We'll talk about it.
All right.
So you talked about professionalism, and so one thing that I think is a lot of the drivers that's coming in, they don't understand that how they do now, like how they're presenting themselves will follow them in the industry. And I think we had this conversation offline, like you have to know that what you do follows you. It can. Everybody talks. As big as transportation may seem, it's not. It's really not, because all the drivers are talking, safety. A lot of us talk from different states. Compliance. We all talk, right? So I think how you present yourself, especially if you want to go into other areas of transportation, right? If you want to do something outside of driving, you want to go into compliance, you want to go, I don't know, whatever your aspirations are, I think how you present yourself now is what is going to be a good resume. How you doing now is going to be your resume before your resume gets to where you're trying to get it to. So that's how I look at it. As a instructor, have you done training with the drivers in the truck or just mainly on the yard? So
no, I do it all.
So with that being said, how do you feel about drivers that, again, we talked about professionalism and looking the part, that get out of the trucks and go to these shippers in pajama pants or slides or just looking a mess. How do you feel about that? Or do you think that should matter?
Well, no, it definitely should matter. It definitely should matter because you got to carry yourself with a bit of classism and professionalism as well. Especially when you do want to become your own boss. If you want to leave the company and stop being a company driver and, become an owner operator, or lease purchase owner operator, or independent owner operator, which means you have your own authority, you definitely want to look the part. You definitely want a freight broker or a logistics coordinator within that shipping company to take you seriously. So I think it definitely does play a part. But for me, I don't necessarily harp on it, and I don't necessarily look at it as much. I might pull someone to the side if I see them face to face personally, and talk to them if they're willing to receive that type of grace, if you will. But to unsugarcoat it and to be as thrash as most drivers have been about it, and I will just be quite frank and say Caucasian drivers, if you will. I don't necessarily put that much time or pressure, or energy into it because, we all know where that came from. That came from, and this is the way I look at it as well, because it came from foreign drivers that come over here and they have a different culture and they wear different things than what we wear over here in America. And then when you have Caucasian drivers that feel privileged to say, hey, I wear cowboy boots and I blue jeans. Why is this person wearing a dashiki with flip-flops? Well, it's different cultures and they are not educated enough to understand the cultural prospect of that other driver. And then it started to become a tactic to where they could use to pick on people, because, they'll always sit there and say, no driver should wear flip-flops. Real drivers shouldn't wear flip-flops. Okay, cool. You can say that. But the time that I spent being a yard jockey, because I used to work for a shipper and be a yard jockey for a little while as well. I have a little tenure in that. And the time I used to be a yard jockey, you want me to tell you who wore the most flip-flops? I seen a lot of brothers out there wearing a lot of flip-flops, a lot of Nike slides and whatnot. And I seen a couple of young Caucasians wearing some flip-flops too. But then when you think about the drivers wearing flip-flops, it's all pointed towards the foreign drivers. And now we see an all-out war, an all-out fight from this administration on the foreign drivers, which, each administration has their different agenda and things of that nature. So to make a long story short, I really don't harp on it or push it, like other drivers should, or not should, but like other drivers do, because I come at it from a different angle.
So I guess I have a bit of a different perspective on that. I don't think I don't know if it will be, white people thing or not. However, I do feel like you should look a certain type of way going into a shipper. I don't feel like you should be walking the yard wearing flip-flops. I feel like you should present yourself in a certain manner, right? Even when I was driving on the road, like I first off, I don't like being out looking a mess. So I could have been driving. I'm not gonna wear a bonnet in the shipper. I'm not gonna get out in some pajamas. That's just me. But I feel like it should be a universal thing. And I'm looking at it as a safety person. That's my job, right? I'm a safety professional. So as in a safety standpoint, walking somebody's yard in flip-flops, you going inside, let's say something happens. Let's say you stub your toe on the yard. Well, whose fault is that? Well, because it happened on that person's property, well, now that company is liable because they didn't enforce, or not even enforce, because a lot of facilities want you to, wear the reflective vest. Or let's say you, a yard mover, they're walking in the yard, they are just in a tank top, nothing reflective, and you don't see them walking across the yard and you hit them. Whose fault is that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I'm looking at it in a safety standpoint. So I don't know if I want to say, oh, well, white people made it where we should be looking a certain way. No, I feel like you should look a certain way. Now, you in your truck, you driving, be as comfortable as you want. when I used to drive, I sometimes didn't even wear shoes, but I'm in my truck, right? If my feet hurt, I'm socks.
Right.
Now, once I get out, I'm gonna put my boots on, and I'm gonna put a little reflective vest on, and I'm gonna get out and I'm gonna go in. But inside my truck is different than the public and the shipper. So I don't know. I don't think I don't want to say it's this white people that push this agenda. I just think it's how you're supposed to be presenting yourself as a company driver.
Well, I agree with that. And the number one thing you said, looking at it from your standpoint, was the key word was safety, correct? You have to, have you ever heard about the delivery part of how you say things and things of that nature?
Yeah. What you say, it's how you say it.
Right. And that matters. So with this being said, if people that say real truckers shouldn't wear flip-flops and blah, 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 if they were to come out and say it's a safety thing, you shouldn't do this because every time they said it, safety, real truckers shouldn't wear flip-flops because of safety, I would agree with that. I would be down for that. But that's not how their delivery is.
That's not the delivery. Okay.
That's not the delivery. And then when you look at it from the people that it's coming from, you got to think deep about this type of thing. They don't say anything about safety. They just say, oh, you shouldn't wear flip-flops because I think it's not right. So like I studied this. I'm in this. Like I know the people that, call certain people out for wearing flip-flops. And I look at them and I look at their background and I go to their YouTube channel and their Facebook, their Instagram, their X, their Twitter. I go and I see what they're about. And I'm like, oh, okay. And those are the ones that have a podcast just like you and things of that nature that actually have a voice. And they be as redneck can be. So once again, if it was a safety, if it was all about safety and they promoted it safety, of course, who wouldn't be for safety? Of course, but that's not how it's being delivered.
So it's the delivery. It's not the message. It's the delivery behind the message.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Totally understand. That makes sense. All right. So let me ask you. So now let's move towards, since you're a trainer, right? So let's talk about the trainers real quick, because I hear horror stories, right? I had a student tell me, because you did training with the drivers on the road. So I had a student tell me that her trainer didn't shower for like 4 days. The truck smelled like onions and just was having a horrible time. So as a student and as an instructor, how are you supposed to learn when you can't even breathe in the cab, right? So the question is, who's failing the students more? The school that's rushing them out, or the trainer, who's asleep in the bunk while the student is driving through, these storms. So is training just a scam for team driving now?
Well, first of all, when you say that, I have to be clear. I never did that type of training. I only did training at a CDL school.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I never took a student over the road or anything of that nature. So that's, number one. Number two, I would definitely look at it, and I would say the industry in totality. I wouldn't necessarily blame the trainer, and I wouldn't necessarily blame the company or the school. Rather, I would just say the industry in totality. And the reason why I say that is because you have these trainers, just like you just stated in your example, that don't care. That don't care. All they care about, and they look at that student as a check when it comes to that type of over-the-road training. They look at that student as a check. And not only that, the company doesn't care well enough to either look at this, that they'll check that trainer's, background, accidents and all that, but they don't even care about the student that they're going to have paired up with that trainer. How's this hygiene, his or her hygiene? Do they smoke? Now, I know a few years ago, it used to be, do you want to be with a smoker or a non-smoker? I remember they used to have that, but nowadays they don't have that anymore because there's a shortage of trainers. People don't want to train anymore. So then you have to look at it from a company standpoint and say, hey, we got all these students about to come through. we need some more trainers. So then they lower the standards and they lower the IQ as well. And I think on that part, you need to talk to the companies and say, hey, what do you guys really want? One thing I've learned in my my past research is, you know, these companies out here, what you call quote unquote mega carriers or whatnot, they only have to have certain amount of students per year to get government funding, get government grants, government contracts and things of that nature. So they push them in, they meet that quota for the year, and then they push them out. They don't care whether you stick with them a year, 2 years, even 6 or 3 months. They don't care. And it's all because of government funding and things of that nature in them contracts. Because if you ever want to find corruption, you need to follow the money, number one. So it goes back to the company. You know, what do you guys want? Do you guys want quality training? And are you willing to pay? You know, are you guys willing to pay? Now, these past few years, since we've been in a freight recession, drivers' pay has been at an all-time low. But even before the freight recession, drivers' pay was still at a low. You know, it's supposed to be a thing called trickle-down economics, where you get people to get paid up at the top, and it's supposed to trickle down. And unfortunately, we got a thing called corporate greed, and unfortunately, it doesn't trickle down. So once we can get that out, corporate greed out of the mix up, and you know, let stuff start flowing down the pipe, you know, then we could talk about quality within training and quality within these companies as well. So for me, I would just personally say the whole industry in totality has failed the student drivers. And that's just the perspective that I'm coming at it from, because they don't have a thing. Have you ever talked to a trainer that was training students out on the road? They don't have a thing to where they can mark off and say, hey, did you teach this student how to chain up? Hey, did you teach this student, if they was ever stuck in a snowstorm, that, you know, they can use kitty litter and rubbing alcohol to get out of it? Hey, did you teach this student how to calculate, you know, shifting the tandems, but when you shift the tandems, each hoe takes off 250 pounds. Did you teach the student that? You know, did you teach the student about, you know, when they need to get their brake drums checked and their brake chambers and all of that? Is it a short stroke or a long stroke? You know, did you teach the student how to do difficult backing, not just regular backing, difficult, like I'm talking about real difficult, to where you got all type obstacles. No, these companies aren't. These companies keep track of how many times a student back, how many miles they had, and that's it. That's it.
There's no checklist. There's no form like a formality that goes across the board. I agree. I think also with that, which you mentioned in a shortage of drivers, and they just kind of get them through. And I've said for a long time, just because somebody can drive good doesn't make them a good trainer. They could be the best. They could be the best driver on that at that company. All these miles, safe miles, right? But that don't mean that they know how to train.
Correct.
Training is a whole different set. It's a whole different skill set. You have to be passionate about wanting to teach somebody. You have to have a ton of patience. Patience is everything with training. And then also being able to figure out different people's learning patterns, right? Everybody has a different learning curve. How I learn may not be how you learn, and how Sarah learns may not be how Michael learns. And so as an instructor, or you have to be able to say, okay, my delivery is not registering with Sarah. How can I deliver the same message to where she'll understand? And then you have to critique yourself and be like, okay, let me deliver it this way. So I think people, when they do the behind the wheel training and road training, not to say everybody's just in it for a check, but I don't feel like they're putting the drivers are, like you said, I agree, pushing them through because they just need to get these drivers trained. And then the drivers are just, after they get those 10 bats or whatever it is, and so many miles, then they get released into the mountains without knowing how to drive in mountains.
Exactly. You know what I would like to see, and what I'm actually pushing for? I have a video coming out to speak about it. I actually have a meeting with a legislative policymaker coming up this week about this as well. But what I would like to see change as far as the instructor to student, ratio or whatnot, is not just quality training, but I want it to be a requirement for every company that has a possible future instructor. I want a course. I want them to go through a course. They can route us in, or they can route you in whenever you have an accident or a hard braking event or something of that nature. But if you want to sign up to be an instructor to take students on the road, I need you to come in, route me in, and take this maybe 1-2 day course. No, actually, I think it should be about 4 day course about how the ethics, how to talk to people, how to treat people, what you should go over when you're teaching this student and you got this student in your truck. I think if we could do that, because now I want to see how serious you are about training this student.
Mm-hmm. I think that'd be a great thing. Also, another thing is, and I always say once I make it big, I got a few courses that I would make all of my employees take. One is also conflict resolution.
Yes.
You're not going to get along with everybody, right? That's just right. But you got to be able to handle that in a way to where you just going to agree to disagree and move on, versus flying off the handle and, now you fighting at somebody's shipper yard. Like, being able to handle conflict. And that's not only just as a trainer, but just anything, when you're out at these shippers and some of these people is just nasty, and you have to just be able to handle that and move accordingly. So I think that's another one. Correct.
I definitely think so too, because you got to think about it. That truck isn't that big enough for two people, right? Mm-hmm. To be living. We're talking about living together. And then you're coming from different backgrounds. You ever see that video about a year ago or whatnot, where it was an older white gentleman and a black gentleman, and they had gotten an argument, and the guy called him the N-word and all that, and the black dude pulled the truck over and was like, "I beat your blah blah blah." The dude's name was Dave, the trainer. Mm-hmm. He was like, "Dave, I beat your blah blah blah." Yeah, it went viral. And it's all because people don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know that, what you were just saying, conflict resolution. They don't know how to do that. So I think that's where most companies fail and drop the ball on that part. You need to watch who you putting these people with. When I first came into when I first came into the industry in 2015, I used to hear the horror stories about trainers and stuff like that. And fun fact, this actually happened, but a trainer fell asleep in the bunk, and the student ran him off a bridge. So the mentality, the mental health, if you will, so I really do think that, if companies want to show they care and they want quality training and push out quality drivers, I really feel like these type of courses and mental evaluations and things of that should definitely be pushed to the forefront.
Most definitely. Yeah. Mental health is a big thing. And I actually have an upcoming episode with a few great people. One is a dyslexic what is her title? Can't remember. I got it in my notes, but it's going to be some really good ones. And then I have a mental health expert that's coming. But mental health is something that people kind of just push to the side, and it's a big thing in the industry, and nobody really talks about it as much as I feel like they should. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So now we talk about social media. We both, you're on social media. I'm on social media. Everybody wants to be an influencer now, right? They get their little ring light. They set up, they put their ring light on the dash, or everything as far as, I ain't gonna say all the girls, but everything is always extra exaggerated with whatever they doing. Everybody's an influencer now. Mm-hmm. But they don't even know how to slide their tandems. Okay. Okay. Do you think social media has hurt the industry? And do we have too many people worried about their content and not enough people worried about compliance and safety?
100%. 100%. I went to this company one time and I met this female trainer. And she was telling me a story about, this was back in 2022. I think, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, she was telling me a story about how this one female had came in with hair done, nails, all of that. Got no problem with that. The problem that I have with it, and the problem that she had with it, was when it was time to really get dirty, go back there, open them trailer doors, or bang on the wheels, the tires, to make sure you don't have a flat, or slide the tandem, pull the bar out if you got an old trailer that got the bar, or if you got the new trailers that have the hydraulic button, slide your tandems, pull your fifth wheel lever out, and all that.
This is going.
She didn't. She didn't want to. She didn't want to do that.
Get dirty.
Exactly. So that's where the influence. That's
got my hair done. Audio.
Yeah. So that's where the influence comes from. But it's not. Yeah. I don't want to make it seem like I'm picking on the women, because there's men out here as well that fresh to death, nice watch, shirt, don't want to get dirty. So
get dirty.
Yeah, and not just get dirty. Exactly. But really? not just not get dirty, but not want to learn the business aspect, the business side of trucking as well. So when you ask that type of question, yes, I think social media, the influence has definitely ruined the trucking industry, because they've made it popular to just get out here and just drive a truck, and you don't got to worry about nothing but making content and drive the truck. And it's definitely caused the trucking industry to go downhill.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's good. It's kind of a more of a fashion show, and it's trending. Yes, that's the word. It's trendy now. Yes. And I think, and I just did a little skit, and I said, if the first question you ask somebody, or me in particular, is how you can pass a drug test.
I saw that.
Yeah, fuck out my face. Because you're not ready. Like, everybody wants to, it's like now everybody wants to be a truck driver. They want a CDL, because, and then as soon as they barely be out of training and they making content already.
Yeah.
They don't even know nothing just yet. Like, you don't even have a flex. You can't flex just yet. You have a CDL. There's a ton of CDL drivers that can't drive worth a damn.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they drove well enough to pass their state exam.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's it. But yet they get to a yard and they came back.
No, I'm gonna tell you
somebody else.
I'm gonna tell you the new thing. I like what you just said, because the new thing is, oh man, these content creators are tricking y'all out here, because the new thing is go look at the rest areas. You want to know why the rest areas are so packed? And I've actually heard this. I actually witnessed this and heard this from a female driver, and not just any female driver. She was actually one of my students at the trucking school. Now, disclaimer, from the trucking school, there's only so much I can do in 30 days.
Yeah.
There's only so much I can do as an instructor in 30 days. I'm a personal advocate to say, hey, I think CDL training should be longer, but that's got to go up the legislative branch. But anyways, she told me she sleep at rest areas, and I'm like, why? Because she don't want to back. She's nervous. So that's what these new truck drivers, these social media truck drivers out here doing. They don't want to back. So, okay, so she's opting for the rest stop because you could just pull forward versus the truck stop. Pull right on in. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, that's the new thing. That's the new thing. And like I said, that's the new thing. That's what's really going on out here. So, because, and then to go back to your previous question about, who's failing these students, when you go back to the company, first of all, this person went through truck driving school. Mm-hmm. Then they went to your company. They was out there with a trainer. You had to test them out for them to get their own company truck. So that's 3 times that they've had chances to work on their backing. And why, when they get, first of all, how did they get their own truck, number one? And then number 2, why is this person still terrified to back? Mm-hmm. I don't get it. I don't get it. And then also when I say the industry, when I was a CDL instructor at the CDL school, what I would do is I would personally take students. I took them through downtown Charlotte, taught them how to drive in tight turns through the middle of downtown Charlotte. Then I would take them to actual truck stops and I would teach them how to back up in between actual trucks.
Yep.
So do you know that 50% of people loved it and 50% of people hated what I was doing? Not the students, I'm talking about management, and this is why I say the industry, and of the truckers. 50% of truckers will look at me and be like, oh man, that's great. I like what you're doing. They need to know that. And then I have 50% of truckers that say, oh, that's bullshit. You shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be up here. They wasting too much time. They do. Yes. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, y'all talk about safety. Y'all talk about these crashes. Y'all talk about these crashes that these foreigners are having, but you don't want to, you look at me funny because I'm trying to help somebody not hit your shit. So that's what I mean when I say the industry in totality. See, one thing I've realized is a lot of truck drivers complain. I'm a driver's advocate. And I had, when I first got on my path to wanting to really make change in this industry and bring about true power, in this industry, I realized I had to stop talking to just truckers. I had to, even though I'm a truck driver, I'm a trucker's advocate. I love us. I'm always going to be for us, but I realized I had to stop talking to truckers. And one of the reasons why I had to stop talking to truckers is because you're only going to get one perspective. And it's always the complaining perspective. But then when you come at them with, okay, what can we do to make this better? How can we change this?
Solution? Exactly.
They have no solutions.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I started becoming buddy with freight brokers, and I started talking to freight brokers and really being interested in it and trying to, put myself in their shoes. You have truckers that complain about freight brokers, but they don't want to put themselves in freight broker shoes. Right. Then you have freight brokers that complain about truckers, but they don't want to put themselves in trucker shoes.
I seen the post that you did that you want to train a freight broker. How to back. I seen that. I like that.
Yeah. Because we have to, in order to bridge this gap, we have to really put each other in each other's shoes and understand what each other's going through. Truckers, you'll talk to them and they'll say, "Oh, the broker's stealing all the money. The broker this, the broker that," and then you'll talk to the freight broker and the trucker is doing this. So it's a lot of bickering going back and forth. So I'm like, well, how can we bridge this gap? Truckers don't know that, guess what? Before that freight broker can move that freight, they got to talk to the logistics coordinator. They got to talk to project managers, blah, blah, blah. Freight brokers understand before we move this truck, we need to figure out our operating costs, our cost per mile, blah, blah, blah. And there's a huge lack between the two. Yeah. So I had to stop talking to one party and really start talking to both parties.
Yep. I think that's a great way to move. That's the only way you're going to really learn is stepping outside your box. That's what I call it. And exactly. So, yeah. Okay. So we have some listeners right now, right, that may be watching right now, and maybe they feel like their training sucks. Maybe they are scared. They're going to end up on one of your episodes, right? If a new driver is listening to this and maybe saying to themselves, man, my training was a joke, what should they do? How do they save their career before they kill somebody or themselves? You spoke about the young lady that is scared to back. If she wants to get better, what should she do if she realizes that her training was not up to par?
She needs to speak to someone immediately in safety or reach out to her driver manager. Now, this is just for company drivers right here. She definitely needs to do that. And I actually told her that as well. And then she needs to invest. Find you somebody when you on your home time, find you another truck driver or your brother, your sister, somebody to stand outside and watch you and say, hey, I know you don't know much about truck driving, but just make sure I don't hit nothing. Because one aspect we have to realize as drivers, accountability.
Yeah.
When are we going to start taking accountability? Because yeah, we can sit up here and say all day, oh, the company didn't teach me this and teach me that. Okay, cool. Got that. Yeah, shame on them. But also, when we gonna start taking accountability? When did you take it upon yourself to say, hey, I'm not good at backing. I got a few hours before I need to drop this load off or whatnot. Let me find an empty parking lot. Or if the truck stop is empty, but early in the mornings or whatnot, go off in the corner and practice your backing a little bit. So, that's number one, invest in yourself, and speak up, definitely speak up.
That's just what I was getting ready to say.
Yeah.
One thing that I always tell them, new drivers is when you get into this industry, you have to have a backbone. All that little talking and that should go out the window. It's time, you got to boss up. Like, it's time for you to stand 10 toes. If it's something you're not understanding, because literally now this is between life and death.
Right.
If it's something you don't understand, say, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, don't let them release you from training.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know you get out on your own. I know you're ready to get out that person's truck. You're tired of being up under them. But if it's going to save you, your life or somebody else's life, I wouldn't want to risk that. So I always tell the drivers, you have to advocate for yourself. Even if the company is pushing to get you out, they just going to pencil whip. They're going to pencil whip your. Don't let them.
Exactly.
They're literally giving you a certificate to potentially go kill yourself, to run yourself off of a mountain.
Exactly.
You know about the engine braking. You don't know not brakes like that. Like, literally, that's how I look at it as, advocate for yourself, speak up.
Exactly. Even go further, look on YouTube, teach yourself how to chain up. I personally, I teach people how to chain because I'm tired of people. And once again, it's mostly drivers. Oh, I never chain, I'll shut down if it gets too bad. Okay, cool. You can shut down, but guess what? That freight still got to move. Number one. Then number two, what if you get like me, my rookie year? Guess what? I was in the snow and I was just about to shut down. And then the snow. Yeah. And then the snow turned into ice. And guess what? I'm already out there on the road. And guess what? Yeah, you could say proper trip planning and whatnot, but I was going from Reno, Nevada to Salt Lake City, Utah. So during that time, hey, when I'm driving on the road, my first few hours, there ain't no ice on the ground, it's snow. I'm chilling, I'm driving safely. But boom, guess what? That ice hit me. Now, where am I going to shut down that? Because there's not a truck stop for another 100 miles. You got to learn how to chain. An old school truck driver taught me how to chain. But you have an influx of lazy drivers, mostly American, by the way, that, oh, no, I don't want to chain. I ain't throwing no chain. If it get too bad, I'm just going to shut down. Truck stop 100 miles down the road. What you going to do?
That part.
So now I implemented at the CDL school to teach people how to chain. Did you know there were instructors that were looking at me crazy? And one instructor went as far as to say, I've been driving trucks for 40 years and I never had a chain. Okay, cool, whatever. But then the management didn't have a problem, but it was other instructors that was complaining, saying, why is he teaching them how to chain, blah, blah, blah. So I took it a step further. I started going to truck stops and just popping up on truck drivers and say, hey, man, I got a pair of chains in the truck. Do you know how to chain? Do you want to learn how to chain? And that's what I started doing because I'm truly trying to bring change into this industry because I really care about the driver.
Right.
I'm not sitting around complaining. I'm not sitting around pointing fingers. No, let's have some solutions in 2026.
Solutions is the key word, solution. So now you have a huge platform. I know you see everything. So if you could change one thing about how we bring new drivers into the game, what would it be? What's your honest thoughts? What's your honest opinion? Education.
Taking training out of the state's hands and making it federal. There's no sense of why, like I live in North Carolina. Why does North Carolina have a different pre-trip than South Carolina? Makes no sense. Yes, even Florida got a different pre-trip than Florida got a different pre-trip than us. Florida got a different pre-trip than Missouri. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Than Maryland. If we all driving the same kind of trucks, why is it different?
So I thought when we switched over to the new pre-trip form that was, the new training where they can walk around with the memory aid paper, right? Is that not there yet?
No. I
You know what I'm
understand
talking
what you're
about?
saying.
So
Yeah.
they can walk around with that memory aid now. I
Mhm.
thought when we went to that was supposed to be implemented in all states to create um, a consistency across all states as far as the pre-trip. But you're saying that that's not in North Carolina. So North Carolina is still on what? Like I would call it the old pre-trip. Is it still in the sections where you got section A, B, and C? Or,
Yeah, well, you have sections like that, right? But what I'm saying is they take out different wording in each state. Like, for
oh,
instance, like, okay, if I'm doing the steering linkage, right, and I go my steering linkage, probably mount secure, not crack, broken, or damaged, and then I go to the universal joints within the steering linkage, I say that, and then, like, I'm just giving an example, and then I go
yeah.
to the steering gearbox, and then I go to the pitman arm and say the castle nut with the Carter key, and then I don't have to say the drag linkage. They take stuff out. You don't have to say the drag linkage. You just got to go straight to the brake chamber now, and the
So you
brake
don't have to
lines.
mention the pitman arm, drag link, upper and lower control arm, and the tie rod. You don't
That's
have
what
to
I'm
mention those.
that's what I'm saying. They take is certain states or counties rather take certain keywords out of the pre-trip nowadays.
Hmm.
Yes. Why is it not universal?
It should be universal. I
Why
agree. It would
why
make it so much easier.
exactly? Why in Nebraska, if I'm a farmer and I have a registered farm and I buy 18 wheeler, why in Nebraska I don't need a CDL to drive that 18 wheeler if I'm only moving within a 100-mile radius to haul freight? Why is that? We talk about foreigners having these accidents and we talk about safety. Guess what? Yeah, you might be a farmer on back roads hauling corn, but anything can happen within 100 miles.
That's true.
Why is that?
That's true.
Why is it that yard jockeys, now the job I had to have a CDL, but why is it that yard jockeys all across America, that job is not the same? Did you know that, guess what? One job that has a yard jockey could say you have to have a CDL. Another yard jockey says you don't have to have a CDL. But that truck
Well,
got air brakes. You
it
got to learn how
does,
to back it
but they're on the yard. I think
still.
that's where they are. Like they're not leaving the facility. However,
Okay. Okay.
I'm
Well,
with you.
how about, okay, since they're just on the yard, how about this? For the people that actually have to go to CDL, go to the DMV to take the CDL test, take the air brakes out the CDL testing. Because what is it there for? If they're just operating the truck on the yard and that yard dog truck still has air brakes, why test me for me to go out on the road with air brakes? I still can have an accident in the yard. I still don't know how
Yeah,
touchy those air brakes are. I still
true.
don't know the difference between 60 psi and 120 psi. Oh, if I don't have general knowledge of 60 psi and this alarm comes on and I'm sitting in this yard jockey truck, what does this mean? What does this
Hmm.
mean? My brakes won't work. What did this mean? You see what I'm saying? It's not universal all the way around, which means the CDL has become watered down throughout the
Watered
years. And
down.
that's why we don't get our respect, because
Yeah.
anybody can jump in a yard dog truck without a CDL and back that thing up, or cannot back the thing up and say, hey, I don't have a CDL, but I still can back up a trailer. And then they get in there and they be like, oh, you can't back up a trailer? Where'd you learn how to
Hmm.
back up a trailer from? Those are the things that I just don't get.
Yeah. I personally feel like a yard dog, or they don't like that term now. That's what we call them.
I call them
Trailer
that. I was
movers.
one.
Yeah, the yard dogs. Um, I think you should have a CDL. And the only reason I say that is because of safety. Everything is typically going to always run back to safety with me. Safety, and to teach a yard jockey or yard dog how to back a tractor and a trailer within a short amount of time is damn near nine. That's going to be hard to do it safely, right? You got people that go to school for CDL for 4 weeks, right? So to teach somebody those same things for in a couple of days or a week because they want them in production and they need to start them working.
Mhm.
I think it's just unsafe. And so having somebody come in that already has a CDL, they already understand how that truck works, how the air brake system works, what the PSIs mean. It's just less of a liability, in my opinion, I think.
Yep, I agree.
So
if we're going to treat yard jockeys like that and say they don't need to have a CDL, well, for the person that's going to the DMV to go get a CDL, they need to take air brakes off the test. And guess what? The backing needs to be taken off the test. Because yard jockeys don't have to do it. Even if they're moving in the yard, they can tear up a trailer. They can't open a trailer because it's so tight back in those trailers.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying when I say things need to be changed. When I say the industry in totality has blood on their hands, the industry has blood on their hands. There's different backing maneuvers that we do down here in North Carolina versus Maryland. Why?
What do y'all do there?
Well, we do the straight back offset in the 90. Maryland does straight back offset 90 and parallel. Straight. And then somebody told me, well, they do parallel up there because the streets are tighter and blah, blah, this. What does that matter? If I'm a driver that lives in North Carolina and got my CDL in North Carolina and I got to go to Maryland to drop off a load, you don't think I might have to do a parallel park up there one day? Mm-hmm. There's not universal teaching going on within this industry.
Yeah. I definitely feel like, I agree. The teaching one thing it would make it so much easier. And I think it would definitely be received a lot better as well, as far as training is concerned. But
exactly. Like, have you ever heard of underride crashes?
No, I knew about them, but I haven't really studied them. I have seen some of your content talking about them. But for the people, while we're kind of on that, talk about that real quick.
Well, first, let me ask you this. How do you feel about foreign drivers having a CDL and foreign drivers crashing a lot? What are your take? What's your point on that?
First question, how do I feel about foreign drivers?
And the whole English proficiency. Like, what's your take on that?
Well, I think we kind of talked about this, but I think the foreign driver highlight is burying a bigger problem. First, let me start there, because even us American CDL drivers, it's a whole lot of bullshit that go on within just us. So that nobody's talking about. So the fact that the foreigners are being the highlight is hiding a bigger problem. Now, how do I feel about them driving? I feel like it's okay if they went through the same training we all have to go through.
Well, I'm talking about the crashes. How do you feel about all these crashes they've been having lately?
I feel like they are being highlighted in a way to hide some other stuff. They are not the only ones crashing. They're not the only ones being unsafe. They are not the only ones, doing, dumb shit. But they are the only ones that's being highlighted and being plastered all over the TV.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Me and you, we think alike on that, because the reason why I brought that up is, a lot of people that are not educated on this topic, they'll sit up there and they'll just agree with what everybody's saying. Yeah, they shouldn't be here. They need to know how to speak English. They need to know how to read these road signs. And if they don't, it's a public hazard, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Well, first of all, the HB1 visa, it actually says that they are not required to speak English, even though within the DOT handbook, it says every CDL driver must speak English. The HB1 visa says, no, they do not. So that's number one about, people that's not educated, but they want to regurgitate what they've heard. That's number one. Then number two, when they come at it from a public safety issue, it's a public safety if they don't know how to read these road signs. Well, guess what else is a public safety? Underride crashes, which NHTSA, which is the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, and OIDA, and the trailer manufacturer Wabash, because Wabash got sued a few years ago because their DOT bumpers were failing at a high rate.
The bumpers?
Yeah, the
Uh-oh.
DOT bumpers were failing at a high rate. When I mean a high rate, I mean they were just slapping them on there, and they were not sturdy enough to handle the impact that it could go through. There's a documentary called America's Dangerous Trucks. Whenever you can, check that out. And for the listeners out there, whenever you guys can, go check that out. And it will highlight that, guess what, an underride crash is a crash that happens when a car slides up under a trailer, a semi-truck trailer, whether it's in the back, in the rear, or on the side. There are hundreds of deaths that happen every year of underride crashes. Within that documentary, you have Ida that got up on Capitol Hill, which is Louis Pugh, and you had Wabash, and you had the trucking industry in totality, NHTSA, get up there, and it was a white mother, and it was a white father that lost their children. And do you want to know what the trucking industry said to those parents in totality within that documentary? They said, "Hey, sorry for your loss. We can't do nothing for you." Because what they did was, in order to put side guards up under the trailer to withstand impact like that, they came out and said, right, the people that made the side guards, they said, guess what? It's going to cost $50 per trailer. Guess what? The trucking industry came back and said, no, we think it's going to cost $120 per trailer. Do you want to know why they said that? Because they raised the price. Because did you know within DOT regulation, and yeah, there you go right there. Within DOT regulation, did you know that if a regulation is of a certain price point, did you know that 9 times out of 10, it won't get adopted by safety? So they raised it. They raised the price to get it out of the price point, to say, hey, we can't afford this. Yeah, that's how slick they are. But they want to blame these crashes on these foreigners. Then Arkansas, and I did my research, and I have a whole video about this as well. But Arkansas led this whole situation with these non-domicile and blah blah blah. I went back and looked at the FMCSA total crash record in Arkansas between non-domicile and domicile. It was damn near neck and neck.
Really?
Yes. And then they don't even do a good job of explaining what non-domicile means. Everybody think non-domicile means foreigners. No, it does not. You could you could live in North Carolina here and go to a trucking school in Arkansas, get your CDL in Arkansas, and guess what? That's a non-domicile CDL, because you're not domiciled in Arkansas, which means you're not living in Arkansas. So to go back to your point, they're being highlighted. They're being the scapegoat for something bigger. And within this administration, and how this administration feels about immigrants, there you go. Which goes back to the truckers wear flip-flops and things of that nature. See, this thing is deep. This thing is deep when you start getting into it and you start thinking about it and talking about it. Because the ones that really wear flip-flops are the foreigners, the Somalians, the Mexicans, all of that. So
I was trying to find that series, that the documentary you was talking about.
America's Dangerous Trucks.
Dangerous Trucks. Yeah.
Go to YouTube. It's on there. I think it's a CBS documentary, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll go and show you. It'll tell you. It'll go and show you, like, hey man, what y'all doing with these crashes, man? Do y'all really care about safety? There it is, right there. That's the guy. That's the guy that's hosting the whole documentary. And you'll see people, major people within the trucking industry are saying, we can't help you with this. We can't help you with this. Oh, but y'all want to talk about these foreigners having these crashes. Get the fuck out of here. And they want to talk about public safety, but when it really comes to public safety, why aren't we doing anything about these DMVs? Why aren't we partnering with DMVs in states to help the motoring public learn how to drive between an 18-wheeler or with an 18-wheeler?
With the 18-wheeler,
because
yeah, for sure.
As me and you know, being drivers, 9 times out of 10, these crashes are mostly because of four-wheelers, because of cars. So why aren't we doing anything to partner with the DMV for the motoring public, give them pamphlets to say, hey, it takes a semi truck, a football field to slow down or to come to a complete stop.
Yeah.
I bet they don't even know that.
I don't think they do. And I think exactly what you're talking about, if we're going to do that, that should be a part of driver's ed for students, for
Yes,
kids,
I agree.
especially for them. That should be because these kids don't know, you know, and I'm okay, my own personal experience. I remember I was maybe 20, probably like 20, 21, right? Young. And I remember, and that's why I always said, man, some guys been looking out for me my whole life. I remember driving and it was 2 lanes. I was in the far right lane near the curb, and then there was a truck in front of me, and then he got over. And I'm like, why the freak is he going so slow? I'm 20, right?
Yeah.
Going too slow. I'm just going fast for whatever reason. He got over into the left lane. I went to go zoom past him, that front end, start bending in. Now hindsight, he went out so he can bring it back. Me, I didn't know. I went to go past him. I had a little car too. And luckily, my reaction time was great. And I remember hitting those brakes and turning that corner.
Yes.
And I missed that truck. And so I think about moments like that. I'm not the only one that did that. I'm not the only one that didn't know that truck swung out left to hook it back to the right, right? Like,
right.
So if I was taught that, or if I learned that, I think it would, or if people are taught that, it would make them a lot more aware of, like you talked about, how it takes damn near 2 football fields for a fully loaded tractor trailer to stop, right? Like they would know these things. And I think it would cut down on the accident rate and how people maneuver around the trucks in general. So I think that's definitely something that needs to be looked at.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up. So we've been talking for what? It's been about an hour? Oh, an hour? Listen, that's what happens when the conversation is good, especially when you're pinging ideas off of each other. So, anything you want to talk about, or anything you didn't get a chance to mention before we go ahead and wrap this up?
No, just education.
I love it. So, Shorty, I know you're always dropping content and you're always keeping us entertained. So, tell the people where they can find you so they can, check you out and check out some of your content, where they can watch your videos and get more CDL Shorty wisdom.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I was gonna say and get roasted, but I left that out because he be talking shit sometimes. But it's good. It's good shit though. So I was getting ready to say that. So it probably sounded like I didn't end the sentence because I didn't. I held back a little bit.
Well, I appreciate that. You can find me on YouTube at CDL Shorty. You can also find me on Instagram at V as in Victor Jackson 28. That's my Instagram handle. You can email me at ajavjackson89@gmail.com. And then you can find me and my brothers on our podcast as well on YouTube at the National Trucking Network. So those are places that you can find me.
National Trucking Network. Y'all remember that. All right, Shorty, I appreciate it. I appreciate you so much for taking time. I didn't expect us to be on this long. I'm actually excited about that. That's a great thing. To my listeners, if you are a trainee, again, advocate for yourself. If you are a trainer, do your job. All right. Stop sleeping in the bunk and letting that driver just go off, and do your job. Do what you're there to do. All right. Stay safe, stay compliant. My ladies, stay gorgeous. My fellas, stay handsome. Keep it between the lines, and I will catch y'all next week. Shorty, thank you again. I appreciate you.
Thank you for
And
having me.
of course, I'll talk to you guys later. 10-4. 10-4.